Ladies and gentlemen, we're back again. We're back again. We took a hiatus in the previous episode and we took a little hiatus for this episode, but we're back and we got a new show on our hands right now. We went through a series of names. We're gonna pick right on air, live on air. We're gonna pick the name of this. Any of these names that you wrote down here on the document stick out to you there, Matt?
Well, Reese, good to see you, buddy. We're back. It's in the corners time. It's the summer edition, so there's no
Yes.
hockey right now, but we're getting ready for the big season coming up, BCIHL and otherwise. So we're not sitting back, right?
Oh, not at all.
No way, no way. But so I ran. So we don't really know what to call this summer series. So I ran a few ideas by you.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you had a favorite. Do you want to try one on for size?
I like going camping within the corners. I like
Going
that.
camping, yeah.
Very summer campfire songs within the corners. What do you think of
Yes,
off-season shenanigans? What do you
I
think about that?
appreciate that. I
Yeah,
like
you
it.
like that one?
I like grill and chill
Grill and
BCIHL
Oh, I like
or
that. It
hit.
kind of rhymes when you say it. When you say it all together, kind of rhymes. Comes off the tongue nice.
What about hitting the dugout? That's kind of like a play with the baseball,
Right.
but also the dugout on the farm is the frozen pond, the
Oh,
dugout.
okay. So
It
this
could
is
be a
like
Saskatchewan term.
I was about to say this is a Saskatchewan name.
Yeah, like here it would be like this: hitting the dugout with Reese and Matt. You like that?
Mm, you know what, the way it was rolled off sounded pretty good.
So you like the camping, going camping within the corners.
Yeah,
Maybe we'll go with that for our summer edition, for our summer series.
let's see it. Camping within the corners. All right. And the reason why we're camping because it's the summer, it's the off season.
Yeah.
We've got only off season moves, just like the NHL, just like most sports right now. It's the time where the management team gets their paychecks, and yeah, they're gonna have to pull some miracles if they want to change, especially the BCIHL, but any team in the world, if they want to make any changes to the league, they're going to have to make improvements to the team. So
Yeah.
Matt has compiled some really interesting stuff and great updates for all these BCIHL teams. But we're going to start off with a little bit of a study, an identification. We're going to look at some trends. All right.
Love
And
it.
we're kind of piggybacking, even though I hate, by the way, that bothers me sometimes. Piggybacking. Okay. It's annoying. Anyhow, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to piggyback off the idea that was presented in the last episode, which was
Yes.
about is SFU ready to move on from the BCIHL? Because before we go too in depth with this, I think what is it? In 16-year history, they've won what, 5? How many have they won?
Yeah. I think last year was their fifth.
Yeah. Okay. So it doesn't sound that bad when you present in those numbers, but when you take a look at who's been in the finals. So let's do a little bit of counting. I'll throw the image up for everybody to take a look at here. Since
Okay.
2006 and 7, Simon Fraser University has been in the final 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's 7 years in a row from 2006 to 2012.
Uh-huh.
Or 6 years there. Okay. And then after that, Trinity Western goes, and then guess who? SFU. After that, I think we go on that's actually a 4-year hiatus just before the pandemic. So the pandemic seemed to help SFU. For 4 years, it was no SFU. It was Selkirk College, Trinity Western, and it was University of Victoria the one time there in 2017. That win that we will be going over. And then after that, it's SFU just with 2-0 wins in the best of 3 series. So these guys have seen the finals a lot in the last 6 years.
Yep. Yeah, I bring this up to you, Reese, because on our last episode, we were kind of pulling our hair out. We did a lot this season. SFU goes 19-1. What are we going to do about it? This is the point I'm bringing up to you. Don't give up on trying to beat the returning champs. Don't give up on that, because look at over the history of the BCIHL. Like you said, teams' dominance, their reigns come and go. UVic, 4 championships, SFU, 5. Selkirk, 4 times. They are defunct now because of the pandemic, which is too bad. Maybe they'll come back.
Oh,
And then
is that
Trinity,
what happened there? Yeah,
yeah, they're called the Saints.
okay.
Be cool to see
Okay.
them again. Of course, now we got Logan Lake, and then the Trinity Western Spartans. That's the religious school that bumped
Yep,
up to U Sports.
that's right.
So they won a couple too. You know who's looking for their first this year? The
Ooh.
Mariners.
Oh, that's
They
right.
are
You,
on
yeah.
fire. They want it. So they're, you know what? You were talking off the top of the show of the off-season moves. The BCIHL is humming right now,
Oh,
especially the Mariners, in my opinion.
yeah. Yeah, based
But
on the stuff
that
you've written down, it's they look
yeah,
pretty good.
there was a feature on Global BC. This guy Barry DeLay, who did a feature with Mark Coletta. Mark Coletta is the coach of SFU.
Okay.
Now, remember last episode we were talking about NCAA and university hockey and how exciting it is for us. I mean,
Yep.
we're BCIHL, so we like it.
Yeah.
Well, Mark Coletta was saying on this feature that they are trying to that SFU Red Leafs are trying to move towards becoming an NCAA Division One team. So they are doing that on purpose. So we got some of our answers that we
Yeah.
were wondering about last week.
Okay. Well, these are this
just
is
we're
I
just
just
putting these
I
pieces together, right?
well, it's not, it's the fear. There's I always,
Yeah,
it's where we started. I'm always going to be a UVic fan at heart, as much as I love the BCIHL as a league.
for
But
sure.
man, hearing the improvements of these other teams, it's like, and nothing. And by the way, not that UVic doesn't have their fair share of improvements, which we will get into, but it's just a little scary. Makes me a little uneasy.
Well, UVic has a lot going for it as a school. It's a beautiful place to live.
Yeah.
But that's what a lot of these hockey players say is like, I always wanted to live in BC, so I'm coming out here to go to university.
Right.
So there is a lot of potential with all of these teams. Lots of people are going up to play in Nanaimo. People who love hiking and playing hockey and fishing and
Yeah.
jumping off of the dock.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. This is going to be a very popular place as hockey moves along in its
yeah.
trajectory into the mainstream of the world sports.
Well, certainly there's a shakeup with the path that hockey players are taking. That's something that we talked about in the interview
That's
that's
right.
coming up on the show. So maybe I
Oh
won't
yes,
get into all
forgot to
that.
mention that. Great interview coming. Will Breton, gonna love it. But so just to start off here, under new commits, these are all the UVic guys, right?
Number 2 there, that's SFU.
Oh, that's all.
Yeah,
That's
we
just
just have
SFU?
updates. We have updates on 2 teams today, SFU and VIU Mariners.
Ladies and gentlemen, I said I was scared before, but now that I see the amount of work being done in the offseason for both these teams, it's just got to strike some fear. So let's get into it right off the bat. We'll start from the very bottom. Blake Power, he's a forward from Port Alberni Bombers in the VIJHL, which is a league that we love, me and Matt. He was with the Nanaimo Clippers a couple years ago, or not? Yeah, not this past season. Seasons before that, he was with the Clippers. He looks pretty decent. He had a really good season in his first year in the VIJHL, being productive. He's a +20, which that's great.
You like that one?
Yeah.
I love it.
He was like this guy's clearly a two-way machine. If I'm just going off stats, I haven't really obviously watched him
There you go.
too much in depth, which I'm sure the viewers at home might have an idea. But he's got 7 points, 22 assists, 29 for 29 points in 45 games, which is not shabby at all. And the +20 is where I go. This guy seems like a guy you can trust on the ice. So
this guy's going to the Mariners.
Yeah, that's a Mariners guy. They had themselves a nice two-way worker. I mean, they're missing. They're obviously going to be losing a couple guys as we went over in the past episodes, which is sad, obviously, but I don't think it's going to affect them too much, especially based on these other guys that they got. But tell us about Dylan Franklin, this other guy.
It's a player from Campbell River Storm. 100 games played in the VIJHL, 90 points. So these are, I think he's from the Victoria area, but has played up north on the island. Junior B hockey player, point per game player, playoff run with the Campbell River Storm last year. They were beat by Oceanside, that monster team. Another player for the Mariners, Noah Wilson from St. Albert. He's from coming from Swan Valley Stampeders.
Yep.
That's the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. So a lot of these guys from Manitoba want to come to the island and play hockey.
I don't blame
You know what I mean?
especially coming
Yeah,
from there.
that's Junior A. Swan Valley, a beautiful place, a beautiful time of year to visit.
Yep.
Uh, they're called the Stampeders.
Yep.
A bit of an edge, a bit of a toughness to. We'll watch for Noah Wilson. And then before I pass it back to you, they did bring in a goalie. Now last year it was Derek Crawl, and Fournier. And Crawl started. Remember, he started all those games, and then Fournier took
Yes.
the games against the Miners. Crawl.
Yep.
Well, they're bringing in Jeremy Robar from. This is a goalie from the Maritimes, from
Wow.
Blockhouse, Nova Scotia. That's pretty good. That place sounds cool.
He's away.
Pictou County Crushers. That's the team he was on. So
Oh,
that's kind of interesting. A bit of a coast to coast action here. They're bringing in their goalie Robar to help
absolutely.
out.
Yeah, that's huge. Another big goalie to add to that lineup. And I do want to say earlier, I made a huge rookie mistake that, all the people who have a brain in the sport of hockey are going to chuckle at. I thought he was a plus 20. That's his penalty minutes. Rookie mistake.
Oh, it was?
Rookie mistake.
Well,
My
hey,
bad.
you had me. I
So,
believed you.
yeah, he had 20 penalty minutes in 45 games. That's little. That's nothing to. Anyhow, let's move on.
Yep.
You were talking about how these players wanted to get out to BC. You said the guys in Manitoba, said guys from Alberta. Well, we do got an Alberta guy. He's a forward, Aiden Banks. He's from Calgary, and we have a quote here written by Matt that says, "I always wanted to live in BC." So, like you said earlier, it's just that beautiful West Coast weather, that lifestyle, chill out, be a good guy, but also work hard in sports, big sports area. People want to get out here, man. Out there.
Yeah, Aiden Banks is going
I'm on terrible. Go ahead. Sorry.
It's going to be a part of the Mariners' new crew that's going to take a run at the Red Leafs, all right, for their first championship. Aiden Banks, he's from Kindersley Clippers. That's a great franchise in Saskatchewan at the Junior A.
Yep.
With the big battles against the Flin Flon Bombers, and the teams of that caliber that we absolutely love. Check out this one, Finlandia Lions. That's a Christian school in Michigan, I guess.
Wow.
Finlandia. They're sending their player James Peterson to the Michigan to the Mariners. BIU.
Nice.
James Pedersen.
Very different types of people coming into this team just this year. It seems like just
right
geographically, right? You have the Maritimes fella, you got the guys from Alberta, guys from Manitoba, and then here now we got a guy from Christian side of Michigan.
Yeah, Finlandia, that Finlandia Lions. That's kind of a scary sounding team. It sounds like it's from
Viking,
like Middle Earth, right?
Oh yeah,
something like that. Like the Targaryens and the Dragons are going to Finlandia.
I don't want to mess with them. I don't want to step on that land.
Last commitment for the Mariners, Tyson Lotard from the Nelson Leafs. A big defenseman here.
Ooh.
29 points in 40 games, some playoff experience. So, I feel like we've already done a show or two on what the Mariners have added. They've flipped half of their roster, right? They're bringing in a ton of competition into their roster, going into the exhibition games. And so the Mariners, they're coming off their loss to the Red Leafs last year in the final.
Yep.
They really, they want it. They're changing things up. They announced their new GM. You want to go over that part, Reese?
Yeah, let's put out the statement a little bit just so that people can know, the VIU fans can get a little excited about their new guy, Andrew Riddell. Here's a little quote from him. "I'm honored to play a part in helping the organization reach its full potential. We are fortunate to have an incredible coaching staff, a board that is dedicated to elevating the organization and the fan experience, and a university that supports us. As the Mariners organization grows, we believe the hockey club will be a highly sought post-secondary option." So you got to love that confidence and that clear acknowledgement of potential for that school, which, hey, we've been watching them for the last 2 seasons and we've seen a huge development. And just like we just went over, those ads are not going to hurt the team. I'll say that. I hurt them. think it'll do quite
They were a
well.
beast last year,
Yep,
and they're going to be coming back just as strong. I think this
exactly.
success of the Red Leafs program is contagious in the BCIHL. I think
Yeah,
teams see SFU well coached with the team chemistry, striving for to advance their program. And I
yep.
think that the Mariners are catching a bit of that fever as well.
Oh yeah,
So exciting times for the whole league to
absolutely.
step up their game. You know what I'm saying, Reese?
Yeah, no, exactly. And speaking of stepping up game, couldn't have stumbled more on that word. Speaking of stepping up their game, SFU. Let's talk about their graduated players because these are
Yeah.
some important guys that we do need to recognize. Give a little bit of a round of applause for how they played. They got some graduating players. So Jalabert or Halibert, I don't know. Maybe he's got like a little bit of a different pronunciation, but we always called him Jalabert. He's out of here. So Matthew Jalabert, he's going to be out of here. You got anything to say about that player?
Um, Sick wrist shot, right?
Yeah,
There you
watched
go.
him score.
Oh,
Yeah,
we
we
watched
scored
all these guys score a
yeah.
bunch of goals
On UVic while we were doing commentary for UVic. So
yeah, on everybody.
no disrespect. Your skill put us into situations where we had to be positive when it didn't look like we should have been. It looked like all negative. But Jacob Lacasse, another guy, he's out of here. I think he was with them for 2 or 3 years. Maybe this is only season. I can't remember. Either him, but this is the big one. And no disrespect to the other guys, but the man who wore the C, Mitch Ledger, is gone, which I think we have mentioned in a previous episode.
I think so. He was part of my fantasy team last year. So,
Great player.
leaving a big shoes to fill there.
Yeah, he's just a great player.
But they'll
He
be
was a
looking
lot
for
of
a
fun to
new
watch.
leader. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. They're going to be in search of how to replace that leadership. They were a well disciplined team, even though they were tough to play against. It's going to be interesting.
Oftentimes with Hilton and Wicks, remember, was Ledgerd, or sometimes second line center. Really a kind of the model type of player in the BCIHL, like a real leader in just ideal type of player,
Yeah, exactly.
in my opinion.
And the last two guys here who are moving on is Kyle Berg and Justin Lee. So those are two guys who are moving on to the next thing. We'll see if they stay in the game of hockey. Obviously, we'll be here for that. But let's move on to some of their new additions. So there's three guys I can see here. Let's start off with the first one. Give us a little breakdown on Nick Braun.
Okay, Nick Braun from West Vancouver. This player coming to SFU has kind of a unique story. He played in the States with a team called the Jersey Hitmen. That's the United States Premier Hockey League. Now it's a collegiate development league, but he's putting up points in the league. 42 points in 50 games. This is a top team in this division called NCDC. That's like ACDC, but different. Yeah. Lastly, before he went down and played in the States, he came up with the Dauphin Kings. That's another Manitoba MJHL. That's like Garrett Herechka, the new player coming to the Vikes.
Yep.
So a few Dauphin players and a lot of talent coming out of the MJHL. On the Vikes side, that defenseman Crew.
Yeah.
There's another guy coming out of the MJHL from Winkler. So a lot of these players maybe have known each other, played against each other. Nick Braun is coming in last season with the Jersey Hitmen. That sounds like a pretty good team.
Yep.
Now he's coming into the championship program here at SFU.
Yeah. So we'll see what he can add to that team. He's going to be walking into a dressing room that he's got a lot of upward mobility that is not going to be that just smooth of a rise up. It's going to be hard work. It's going to be proving to your coach is in practice and in game that you could be better than these established individuals with this championship team. So we'll see what Nick Braun can do. But moving on here, we got Walker Erickson. So he's from the BCIHL. He's played there for 4 years. I think he played with, you got the Trail Smoke Eaters, Merritt Centennials, and the Nanaimo Clippers, as well as the Vernon Vipers. So he's kind of made his way throughout the BC land. So
Yeah.
he in his first junior A season, he was 32 points in 53 regular season games. So he looks like a guy he could fit into the middle of the lineup, put some work out there. He's clearly an experienced hockey player, and I think he's going to slot right into the BCIHL pretty easily. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, like that pedigree, someone that's been around and 164 games played, it says here, in his junior career so far. Walker Erickson will be looking at that. Looking to see, it will be interesting to see what types of players SFU recruits. If they're
Yes.
going to go and try and advance their program. Last year, we saw Nick Wicks come in from NCAA,
Yep.
immediately leading scorer in the league with Dunlop and Nolan, our guy down here.
Yep.
Well, what types of players are SFU looking for to round out their roster? So, looking at Walker Erickson's info here, we don't really can't really tell the style.
No.
But will they be adding checking? Will they be adding size? They're going up against Colorado State. Remember that from last episode? They're going up against these in the exhibition round they're doing this year.
Yep.
They're going against Colorado State, playing against Michigan and Boston College, I think. So, what kind of players are these guys going to be? That'll be telling us what SFU is looking for and what they value to add their team.
Yeah, exactly. Are they going to fit
Know what
the
I'm saying?
identity? Are they going to
Yeah.
Are they going to fit that identity, or are they going to add to that identity? Are they going to change that identity? You know what I mean? So we'll have to see. That's the thing about making moves. You can bring in a couple small players and they don't mean anything the next season. They're everything to your team, or you bring, a young kid in and next thing you know, boom, second line and he's out there putting up points, right? So it's like you said, it's very interesting to see what type of guys are going to turn out to be. But moving on here, you wrote down something here, and I think you had a little bit of a discussion to be had about the way junior players climb the WHL and into university sports. So
yeah, well, hey, before that, I just want to mention one more SFU player. Can I bring one more?
we forgot Jackson Murphy Johnson. We can't forget him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jackson Murphy Johnson, BCHL, AJHL, Trail Smoke Eaters, Coquitlam Express, the Black Falls Bulldogs. That sounds like a cool team.
Yep.
That must be the Alberta one, Black Falls Bulldogs. 118 games of Junior A, and he was named best defenseman last year with the Merit Centennials.
Wow, so SFU
So,
just brought themselves in a former best defenseman.
They're pretty stacked on defense, hey?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're going to need it, though, going up against those NCAA teams, which is kind of what I was getting in here. There's been a thing in the news about the BCHL Junior A going independent. So they're no longer the Junior A level in BC. They're an independent league. So there's a big shakeup with junior hockey. I talked to Will Bryant a little bit about this in the interview, but essentially the VI would become Junior A. So there's a bit of a shakeup right now, and we're going to have to get some more information on what it means. But what I'm thinking it means is that younger hockey players, as they're coming up, it's more of a streamline to university sports as opposed to the dub, or just the WHL. I think there's more incentive or more program of a current to go into academic sports, which of course is great for UVic.
Yeah.
Let's keep an eye on that this season and how that develops. That's not my specialty, but we're going to be watching out for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to have to pay attention to that. That is a big development. That could change a lot. And yeah, like you said, if we could find a way to sway get more Dan Gattenbys, is my point, sway a couple of these WHL guys, whether they are prospects or they play for them or they're thinking of, hey, come to university, spend 4 years there, and then try your luck after that. Especially if you're a broadcast team, we'll bring you right to the top. Right to the top.
Yeah. One thing, Breeze, before we move on, that you mentioned, I thought this is a key point that you said for me. The competition within the teams is going to be almost as heavy as the competition in the league. Like the competition for all the Mariners players on the
Yeah.
team, the new guys, all of the new Vikes players, all of the new players on the SFU. That's going to be really interesting to see in the early months of the exhibition season, the first couple months of the regular season, how the teams gel with all the new players. Yeah, that you got me fired up just talking about
Yeah.
that, because
No,
the
exactly.
competition in the team is going to be intense.
And that's something we saw with UVic this year, especially at the goaltending position for a good example.
Yep.
But this year, something that they had that they did not have previously was inter-team competition. Younger, the freshmen pushing up into the lineup and moving around the seniors and showing like, hey, if we do make a couple good decisions in terms of commits, we could change the whole landscape of the season, right? So, um, and obviously, I hate to bring it up, not in a negative light, but that's something that SFU has always had a clear advantage on is being a funded school and being able in an area with so much interest in an established school. Not that UVic isn't, but obviously the separation from varsity to club is does not help the hockey team. But again, like you said, the inter team competition is going to be crazy, and based on all of these commits, it seems like every team is going to be experiencing this inter team competition like all season.
Yeah. And this further to the point we started with, SFU's dominance in the BCIHL. It feels like it's going to last forever when
Yeah.
you go through a long, hard season, but you should never give up on improving your team. And that's what that's what these teams are doing. Everyone is trying to improve their program and pushing one another uh, to be competitive. And that's a big, things feel like they're going to stay the same forever, but they don't. The leagues change up and shift around, and there'll be a lot of exciting things to watch this year in the BCIHL. No doubt about that. How
No
is
doubt.
SFU going to, how are they going to fare against the NCAA teams,
Yeah.
And how, of course, is the rivalry on the island going to pop off this year? Because it will. Lots to look at. Hey, Reese, that was my going camping within the corners rant.
Hey, well, I've had one or two already, so I don't blame you.
Yeah, me too.
Um,
Going on.
let's go through these last few things here. One thing that you did bring up before the episode started was a news article by Barry DeLay, with
Yeah.
Mark Coletta, which is the coach at SFU. That's the current one, right?
Yep.
Yeah, 11 years going strong. So, what did we hear in that article?
That was the piece about SFU Red Leafs ambition to become an NCAA Division I hockey program. That's what that piece was all about. Because on the last in the corners episode, we were wondering, what is Red Leafs? What are they going to do? What are they up to? They're going 19-1. They're playing all these NCAA teams. What are they up to? Well,
Yeah.
because of their university's accreditation, something that's a bit over my head, but because of their status, they can climb up to NCAA versus U Sports. So that was an interesting piece there. And they want to do it within the next couple of years. So
Yeah, they should.
we're going to wish them great luck with that. And
Oh, absolutely. And that is
going to be an
so
exciting year for them.
gigantic for not only the kids who are on the SFU team, but also like kids in Canada and just want another route to get into pro hockey. This is a way to do it. Like we said last episode, we had a big portion of it, or at least I did, in terms of a rant about how a lot of these kids that are coming up in hockey now are going to be swayed to go to universities in the States rather than the OHL, rather than the WHL, rather than the CHL. Because number one, the hitting and the toughness is remaining and growing in a youthful way to the modern game in NCAA, where there's discussions about changes and just the way that they have it structured. It's just they're not going to be making that many players interested like they were back in, I'd say, probably before 2010. Before 2010, it was like CHL or nothing. Like there was obviously many good players like Brian Leach, who went to university and went the NCAA route,
One
right?
of my favorites.
Right. So there's lots of it still happened, but it was not until I'd say, honestly, the 2010s, late 2010s, that people started to go, the way that they run these programs, like it goes without saying, the United States are just the place for sports. Like it's just, there's more people and the funding and the interest is there. Look at college football, look at college basketball. They're selling out. It's as important as ever. It's just as important as the National League, right? And that's where we need to get with hockey if we want to move the sport up to that trajectory where those other sports are. It starts with colleges. Because in England, it starts with the youth teams. It starts with the EFL Championship. It starts with the teams that work their way up. And then you obviously have your favorite, just like the NHL, you have your favorite teams. That's your pro teams. But that's where the sport grows. Good example of that is that TV show that came out, Ted Lasso. It's the story about a pro team with youth and building it up. And all that does is build the sport, right? And that's what we need hockey to do. And I think the best way to do it is the way that it's actually going, which is the NCAA route.
Love it.
Yeah, it's just better. More fans, more interest. Man, I've been to so many OHL games. I grew up right near the Niagara Ice Dogs. Some nights it's full, some nights it's miserable. And this is like this guy, like the guys we're looking on the ice are the next NHL stars typically, but
I know.
Gonna change.
Yep. Yeah, well, I'm a super fan of the WHL, but I am interested to see how all the shakeup affects the team and the league that we love.
Yeah.
The BCIHL. Reese, before we go, give me a little going camping within the corners update. How are you doing? How's your summer? Are you want to move on to want to close this up? I want to hear how you're doing. What are you up to?
We are running low on the meeting here, so I'll break it down pretty quickly. So currently I am just working my way. You know what? Fun fact for the people at home who remember I have a cat. My cat has now impregnated my girlfriend's cat.
Mars.
So, yeah, Mars is a dad. It's only a matter of days before there's a bunch of kittens running around. Well, not running around. They'll be not running yet, but it will be a month. There'll be a bunch of kittens running around here. So we've been kind of focusing on that, making sure she's nice and healthy and making, getting excited for all the stuff that we're going to do with that. Doing a lot of traveling, just for work, just throughout Ontario, not anything interesting. And playing some men's league soccer where
right on.
The players treat it like it's the UEFA Champions League. Fist fights every other game. Meet me in the parking lot is the most phrased collection of words that you could hear. These guys the real deal. Oh, it's just an aggressive hellscape of fun, and it's fun. I'll be honest.
I love to hear that. I love the passion.
That passion is there.
Yeah, that Peterson, the new guy from the Mariners, coming from that religious school.
Yeah.
That caught my eye because I played in a church league when I was 19.
Oh, yeah.
And that sounds like your rec league, the meet me outside of the church parking lot. That is intense.
Yeah.
So we got to watch out for that guy. He might be have his stick, when the ref is not looking. Oh, yeah. Remember there was a time when there was only one referee. Remember that?
That's right. Yeah.
So
no linesman.
Imagine the stick work and the chippiness before there was two refs.
That and just to flip that coin on the other side, think of the power tripping of that ref. He's just who's gonna check me?
What a lonely job! Like two teams yelling at you, 18,000 people yelling at you, and you're one referee. That is amazing, right?
They had to be tough.
It's hilarious.
But yeah. That's what about you, Matt? You've been touring. Northcote has been on the road.
Yeah. My career as a musician.
Yep.
I'm not, it's back.
It's back.
I'm a washed up guitar player. Right. And I've always been a hockey fan. So I'm loving doing this, but I put out a record of my own original music in March. So I did some touring around Western Canada. I'm hoping to go overseas in the new year. Maybe go down to do some shows in the fall somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's really nice to have back in my life. So I'm singing my face off. I'm trying to learn some new songs and get out there and play my stuff. So I have a really sweet, dedicated following over the years. I kept my day job, but I do have a blast whenever I get to do that.
Yeah, honestly, just get yourself out here to Ontario, and I'll fill the rooms.
Yeah, right. Sounds good. I'll be at the Vikes games. I'll just be blasting my latest mixtape.
You should do that. I mean, hey, like, why not?
Yeah, why not? So that see how long it takes for me to get kicked out of there.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a little bit of a camping with In the Corners.
Exactly.
Matt Good and Reese Voy. We are so glad to bring you some information about the BCIHL. I hope you guys are still keeping tabs. There's gonna be a little bit more content here and there. We'll keep you posted on that. Definitely follow our Instagram. Check out Northcote on Spotify.
Whoa!
Also, one last thing. Watch this great interview with Will
Bryant.
Bryant.
Yes, thank you, Will.
Bryant, where he's a great guy. I didn't get the chance to meet him. Hopefully, another time I will be able to. But
So talented.
He's a talented fella.
Yeah.
And yeah, listen to what he has to say. And yeah, we'll just transition you into that and wish you a good night.
Thank you, buddy. See you around.
See you around, Matt.
See you, folks.
Keep it real.
Going camping.
All right, camping within the corners.
In the corners.
Interview. Watch it. Don't click off the video. Don't.
Hi, folks. Hey, everybody. Welcome to a special segment of In the Corners. Hello, BCIHL hockey fans. Hope you're doing good out there. This is the summer series here, the summer edition. Today, we have a very special segment and guest here with us, play-by-play broadcaster for the Peninsula Panthers. That's the VIJHL. A lot of our BCIHL players are coming up from there. This is a championship calling broadcaster caliber here, Camosun graduate, and also works with the Royals here in Victoria. That's the WHL. Folks, put your hands together for Will Bryant. How you doing, Will?
I'm doing good, Matt. Thank you so much for having me.
Right on. I'm glad you're here. You know, we're in the corners here. We're obsessed with the BCIHL, but we look around the island and the area to see where the players are coming from so we can get to know our players better. And we took in some Panthers games this year, so I'm very happy to have you along. How is your summer going?
It's been going good. Been working away steadily at the radio stations here in town. I work for the Q in the Zone, and yeah, they've been keeping me busy. You know, it's crazy now that everything's like been fully opened up for 2 years. Victoria is as busy as I think it's ever been. So not a ton of sports, right? Not a lot of hockey on the go, but they've been managing to keep me busy otherwise, which it's been a blast.
Right on. So how did the season go for you this Panthers season? Before we move on to getting to know you more, what was the season like that you're just coming off of?
I mean, you know, we're coming off, you know, going into the year, we'd just been to Cyclone. We'd won the league title on a tumultuous season, right? Of course, everyone familiar with what happened with Grant, but it was really an interesting year. It was one that you don't see too often because the team, I think, started either 11-1, 12-0, something incredible, and it looked like that success. It just transferred right over, and they were going to be playing in the VI final once again. But things changed around the mid part of the year. The wheels kind of fell off the wagon a little bit. We had a first-year head coach, Chris Drybergen, who really it seemed like you know, through those first 2 months everything's going right, you don't have any, you know, need to worry. But I think what you really find out about a coach is when things start to go bad, how does the locker room and how does the team pull through it. And we just kept losing and losing and losing, and eventually got to a point where Pete had to let Chris go, I mean. And then we were able to kind of regroup and put it together a pretty solid January and February, kind of get the wheels back on the wagon somewhat. And then a very back and forth first round series against Saanich. Ultimately, we lose that in 6. They go on and fall to Oceanside in a very competitive 6-round VI final. But overall, a good year. And I think for the Panthers, a bit of you wouldn't call it a full rebuild year, but more of a retooling for next season, as I think they're very excited about what the future holds.
Yeah, one of the things that caught our eye this year about the Panthers was the arrival of Logan Spears and Riley Braun to the program at UVic.
Yeah.
So, and there are other players, but those historic type players showed up, and that's how we got the connection with the Panthers this year. And so I was down there and listening to you. How many years have you been with the Panthers?
So I'd be going into my 8th year this year. I started in October of 2016 when I was a senior in high school, and been going on ever since. So yeah, I'll be into my 8th season, I believe, this year.
Amazing. So, how did your broadcast journey begin? Were you a player first, or did you have a mentor? How did it all start for you?
So I was a player, never at a super high level. I played out of the peninsula. I just played minor hockey out of there. I was never, anything too special. I wasn't, looking to play into the junior level. I was just more so having fun playing with my friends. And kind of around the age of 15, I just wasn't able to be on the same team of them as much. And I kind of decided, you know what, this has been fun, but let me, stop playing. And within probably the year, I was working at a little gas station 2 minutes up the road from my house. We had a couple Panther players at the time that also were my coworkers, and they had these little mini pocket schedules that they put out in front of the till. And the guy came in, was like, "Oh, I'm going to one of their games," and I was like, "Oh, he's definitely got a kid playing." Like, "Oh, how old's your kid? What position? Blah blah blah." He's like, "Oh no, I'm actually doing their play-by-play," and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool. I've always wanted to do that."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Actually, I'm filling in. They're looking for a guy. You should go like when you get off work here and just, go talk to him, see what's up." So I get off work, I tell my mom, and she was all like, "Yeah, we're going." She was super gung ho about it. Get down to the barn, and there's only one guy in like a Panthers kind of like blazer putting the camera away. I go up, I talk to him. He didn't really know much about it, but he said to come back next week and talk to Pete, which I did. And Pete was just kind of like, "Who the hell is this guy? He's just some like random 16-year-old walking up saying, 'I want to do your play-by-play.'" But Pete was like, "Hey, we'll give it a go." So I got to do color for the third period of that game because they only had players doing the commentary at that time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were looking high and low for anybody. And they said, "Okay, next week come back. We'll have the guy you met. Paul was his name. He actually was a dad of a kid I went to high school with. Funny enough." But he was going to come and train me against a West Shore Wolves game, who was the team he called for. And that game actually got canceled. Power went out at Pano. So next week I show up and I'm like, okay, he'll train me here. And no, he didn't show up. So I just got thrown in basically into the deep end of the pool. And the way I talk about it is I've been swimming ever since. So basically, they just threw a headset on me and said, "Go." And
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, when the puck dropped, I may have not said a word for the first 45 seconds. And then the guy
Right on.
who had the other headset on is like, "I think your mic's off." And I knew damn well it was on, but I'm like, "Oh, yeah, thanks." And I go down low, try to,
Wow.
adjust the levels. And yeah, no, that was, it's the whole journey. A little bit of a
And
long story.
he passes it to number 5 down the
Yeah, it
side.
wasn't good.
Hey,
Yeah.
man, that's the go-to for yours truly still. So, do you
Yeah.
have any favorite voices that you think are that you really think are great at this, like in the media?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, growing up, I would fall asleep listening to Canucks games, that being John Shorthouse, John Garrett, that kind of tandem, whether that was on, CKNW or on Sportsnet. I would religiously listen to them. Jim Houston, I think, was iconic along with him and Craig Simpson. It's a shame that he's retired now. But even then, I also look at other sports too, not just necessarily hockey, because you can pull a lot of the ways broadcasters, talk about whether it's stats or talk about a play, even if it's not in hockey, which is such a fast-paced game. You look at the way they break it down. So I really think, I mean, it's very mainstream, but Jim Nance, I think, does a fantastic job. I really like Mike Tirico for Sunday Night Football. He's taken over for Al Michaels. He does a great job. And another really funny one's John Anik, the UFC play-by-play guy.
Ah,
I really, when you're in a lull in a hockey game and there's not a lot going on, you can use a lot of the, I think, methods that he uses to kind of talk about the history and the background of fighters. I really love the method that he uses to do it, and I think that can be applied just to filling in some of the dead time. But hockey-wise, Shorthouse and Houston are kind of like my S tier, and that's been who I've modeled my call after for a long time.
hard to argue with that. West Coast in the West Coast hockey group, hey.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
what in your career with the Panthers so far? What have been some of your favorite moments that you've had with the calling team?
Well, I mean, it's very hard to, top that game 6 overtime league winning goal Logan Spears scored back in 2022. That was probably the most fun. That entire series was the most fun I think I've ever had calling any sort of game. There was another playoff series we had against Campbell River when this was the third year in a row we were playing them. They had swept us and beat us in 5 the years previous, and it hadn't been competitive. But the team going into that postseason decided they're making a culture change. They just left some guys who'd played all 48 games in Peninsula, said, "You're not even coming on the bus because we're dedicated to winning." And sure enough, it had an immediate impact. We were up 3 games to 1 in that series. Tanner Ward got a goal to put us up 3 games to 1. Campbell River was stunned. Ultimately, they came back and won that series in 7. But game 5 went to, I think, double or triple overtime. We had 2 breakaways. Aaron DeCook made spectacular saves to keep Campbell River in that series. So it's really those playoff moments where the game is so much more meaningful and your call is just that much more important because you're articulating not only the importance of the game, but what it means to the series as a whole. And playoff hockey is just so much fun to call. You can never get enough of it.
Who are a couple of your favorite players for the Panthers over your time with them?
I mean, it's hard to look past what, Ethan or Josh Lingard, I should say, his brother Ethan's on the team last year and this year now. Tanner Ward, of course, Riley Braun being the all-time Panther, has, I think, every meaningful record that a Panther could hold. Logan Spears, I think those were the 4 guys that when I started my play-by-play journey, they were just coming onto the team. So I really got to see their careers develop and grow and get to see them mature not only into the players, but the men that they become. And that was really cool to see, especially with how great they were on the ice and the chemistry. Getting to call the chemistry that those guys had made my job so much easier. It's not something I think you appreciate just watching it as a fan, but as a broadcaster, like when you've got players that just know where each other are and you've seen it for 48 games and basically, okay, he's going to go there. They know where each other are. It just makes calling a game that much easier. So it's a bit of an easy answer. But I think those 4. And if I had to pick one more, Connor McKillop was an outstanding goaltender we had from, I think, about 2018 through about 2020. He had his 20 year in COVID, I think. He was fantastic, great guy, and really helped the team mature as well.
What do you think about covering the BCIHL? This is a junior B league. Right now, there's some talk about them applying for junior A status. There's a shakeup in the minor league hockey in BC. But as far as the state of the BCIHL at the moment, what do you think about the style of play, the players who play there? Give us a little bit of a feel on what it's like right now to be in the league.
Well, it's really interesting because I came in right at the tail end of when everything was still Jungle B-ish, right? Yeah, everything had half visors. I remember in my first season, you'd have boys squaring off for tilts regularly. It was something that was like, oh yeah, this is junior B hockey, something I was accustomed to seeing. But once Pete really started putting forward that change of putting the full face shields on, we saw a rapid change in the way that junior B hockey on the island was played, because it went from being really rough and tumble Jungle B type hockey to what you see a lot more in junior A and in the WHL, where it's a lot of a faster game. It's quicker, it's more skilled, and it's less of that, physical bang the body and just kind of beat a team into submission. Now you still see that. I think Oceanside was a perfect blend of the two this season. They did that outstandingly. However, it's not nearly as prevalent as you would have seen it, say, 2017 or any time before that. I think it is making a little bit of a comeback slightly, but you still have so much of that speed and skill that's prevalent. I don't know if you'll ever be able to, get back to those full Jungle B days, but it's very interesting. And with the developments where we could be moving to junior A, I mean, hey, I'll take a free promotion. Like, I'm not too fussed about that, but I don't know how that will work necessarily, because if you just take the KI, the PJ, and the VI, and you move them all to junior A, isn't that just kind of like, giving everybody an extra 2 inches of height? Like, we're all really just the same when it all balances back out. So what I could see as a possibility, and this is just me speculating, is they maybe take 3 or 4 teams from the VI, take 5 or 6 teams from the KI and the PJ, and amalgamate them into some junior A league. That way you incorporate the entire province into junior A hockey in BC once again. And those leagues, although lose some teams, don't necessarily, lose fan bases, lose a whole cult following.
What I've been reading about the BCIHL, it seems like the leagues are trying to make a more of a track for the players to incorporate they're playing through a university instead of going for the WHL and maybe not having a ceiling. So is that what you understand as well? Making a track that involves more, for example, NCAA. We have a team in the BCIHL, the SFU Red Leafs. Their goal as a program is to actually be a part of the NCAA. So some of these do I sound like I'm on the right track with this picture?
Yeah, I got what you're saying. Absolutely. So when you look, say, at the BCHL, and they were still under the BC Hockey Junior A affiliation, that is what Junior A, I think, really was about. You'd have, the odd guy get drafted, to the NHL. Like you saw Alex Newhook go in the first round a couple of years back. But a good number of those players, they were playing to get those NCAA scholarships, whether that's Div 1, Div 2, Div 3, whatever it was. You really saw a good chunk of those Junior A players go over to the NCAA. And I think in the event that you see any of these teams from Junior B get that Junior A certification, that's, I think, exactly what we'll see. Will it happen immediately? No, because you got to give it a few years for the talent to cycle through, because you are still going to have all these Junior B players. And then there's a lot of Junior A talent in the BCHL, and I don't know what that's looking like now because they're independent. But once players see that, oh, I have an avenue here through BC Hockey and I can get to the NCAA and all these ways back through, good Junior A pipelines. I think that's what we'll see. But again, it'll have to organically develop.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, there's while you were talking there about Oceanside, and I brought up SFU, it just came to my mind in the BCIHL. SFU were 19-1 last year, very dominant, right? Oceanside, I think, were they 50-3 or something like that, right? They had
something stupid.
And also the Penticton Vs were like that on that side. So how do you think the league could handle a super team like that? This is one thing that Reese and I talk a lot about in the corners on our show here, how to handle a super team in the league. And what do you think it means?
Well, I'm just pulling up their record here from last year. Yeah, so last year, through 48 games, 41 wins, 3 regulation losses, 2 overtime losses, 2 shootout losses. So that is, I think, about par of the course of what we'd seen Campbell River do in 2019, 2018. They'd kind of been that standard in the North Division, just putting up gaudy numbers. But you'd also seen the Victoria Cougars do it a decade or a little over a decade ago. And it's something where, it's very interesting because you don't have, you can't just bar it. You can't stop it from happening. That's just a sign of an organization that knows how to recruit, knows how to develop. And frankly, when you got an organization like a Campbell River, like an Oceanside that put up those gaudy numbers, players see that, they want to go to that organization. They believe, oh, that's how I get to Junior A. That's how I AP. That's how I move myself up in my hockey life. So it's not something that you necessarily want to combat if you're a league. You only ever want to combat it if it's going on for something like 4, 5, 6 years in a row, and it's something that's not competitive. Like using an out of sport example, you'd go to the NBA and say something like Bill Russell's Celtics happened, where they won like 11 titles in 12 or 13 years, something like that. Might have been 11 in a row. But when you're reaching that level of sustained dominance, then I think as a league, you have to look at it and go, okay, how can we level the playing field slightly? But I think your one-off super teams are fine to have, because in junior hockey particularly, the turnover is so great at the WHL level, Junior A level, Junior B level. The further down you go, the more turnover you typically see. So sustaining those super teams is pretty difficult. And I think an organization actually deserves some credit when they're able to do that, because it speaks volumes about them.
Right. And while you're talking there, the Boston Bruins came to mind this year for me in the big leagues. They only lost a handful of games too. So, yeah, if you look over the time in the BCIHL, there has been ebbs and flows of dominant eras. So you're right. Things change and people come and go, right? Or also what happens in the BCIHL is a program will graduate, All right. Well, hey, we're coming to the end of our interview here, Will. How's it going for you so far?
Oh, doing good. Hey, it's been a while since
Having a
I've
blast.
talked too much local hockey, but hey, I've been able to brush it off, and I guess the memories aren't too far away as I thought they were.
Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to ask you about this. Besides the game, the excitement of the game and the speed.
Mhm.
What draws you to the culture, the teams, the players of hockey? Hockey is definitely in the media of needing to improve the culture when it comes to things like, there's been a lot of things about assault and things like
Mhm.
that. Just things that the game is trying to get better culturally. What draws you positively to the game that you love about it?
Mhm. Well, I think that the biggest thing is you get kind of a brotherhood, a familial culture from the game, right? It's you go to war with these guys when you're a player specifically, right? You go to war with these guys. There's a bond that's built. As a broadcaster, you aren't nearly as much a part of that, but I look at it as I want to make these kids look as good as they can, so they can, do as well as they can in their hockey careers, point blank, period. And I think from an organizational standpoint, when you're a member of the staff, it really comes down to what does that look like? And I've been fortunate enough with my time with the Panthers to have really been a part of a staff that supports one another. We go to the Prairie Inn, the little pub out in Keating, after every Friday night game, have a brew or two, have some wings, catch up, just kind of relax, reflect on the game. And Pete comes, Kareen comes, a good number of the off ice staff come. For a while, our head coaches had been coming. That's come in and out now. I mean, Pete's been the head coach, probably rounding up for a little over the last year out of the last 2 years. But it really comes down to the people that make the job worth doing, like any job really. But also there's the passion for it, like you mentioned. And touching quickly on those negative sides, like you said, that's just an issue that I think is more of a societal one, that we as a whole need to get better with. That I think a lot of guys specifically, when something's going wrong, you just need to speak up, and that can be facilitated within a hockey culture where if you have a really good group of guys, they're going to do that, and that's just something that I think we've come a long way with, but still, unfortunately, have a bit more of a way to go. But back to the positives, it's just all about the people and that sort of brotherhood and that journey you go with those guys from September through April. It really makes it a fun time.
Right on. Well, yeah, I love your answer there. Yeah, mentorship is a big one for me.
Hmm.
Even though I'm over the hill, I'm not in university anymore. I
Hmm.
look at some of my mentors growing up. A lot of them were hockey players and the lessons they had from the game. Okay, quickly here, Will Bryant. I've kept you a long time. What are your hopes for the season before you go? What's coming up next for you?
Well, I mean, just looking to, keep personally, to keep improving as a broadcaster. I regularly, like, I will finish a game, I will go to the PI, like I just said, and then when I'm driving home, when I get home, I'm listening back to probably a period and a half of the game that I just called. I'm constantly analyzing it. So I want to improve, I want to get better, and of course, I want the team to succeed as well. So I want the Panthers to, put together as good a season as they can. Hey, it would help if the Royals can too. I get to do some color with them. So yeah, all in all, I'd like to just see the Royals, see the teams that I work for, succeed and really
Yes.
take that next step.
Same here. Well, maybe next time we could talk about the Royals. I missed out on some of that, but thank you very much for your time today and for your insight for us and kind of showing us a little bit of where the players come from that play in the BCIHL.
Absolutely.
Not all come from the VI. Not all come from Junior B and BC,
Hmm.
but this will give our fans of the show here a bit more context. Of course, we're a fan of you, Will. This is Will Bryant, play-by-play broadcaster of the Panthers. That when the players come out, they go, you got to go out to a game because they got a whole show there.
Yeah, if you got that jumbotron, right? Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And the
VI,
intermission games, oh yeah.
yeah, VIJHL championship broadcaster. Thank you very much, Will, for being here. All the best this season, and we'll see you around.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Beat me up, Scotty.